cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
Just making sure everything was recording. So yes, everything's recording. And welcome to. We didn't talk about this, and I thought about it in my head. We're gonna do a spoiler discussion of devs.
Okay.
The reason I'm gonna say it this way. We're just gonna talk about this show, and we have no clue what this show was about.
Well,
We have theories,
right.
and this is how Alex Garland works.
Yes.
He presents a story and puts it out there and lets you be the final judge on what it really meant.
Right. Because life tends to not tie things up in a nice little bow for you at the end. So
Sometimes, but because of that, just being able to talk about this show in any kind of non-spoiler talk is just going to be really hard to discuss.
right.
It was pretty. Acting was cool. Thanks for watching
Or listening.
or listening if you've done that. But but we're going to talk about the show overall. It came out by FX. FX likes taking big swings like this.
Yeah. Yeah, they like doing the kind of random I want to say bizarre, but that's not maybe quite right, but
A lot more risk taking in storytelling process.
yeah. I mean, again, it doesn't just tie the whole thing up in a nice little bow and tell you what it meant.
Right,
It leaves
right.
it for you to decide and
Interpret at your own pace.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And odd
And
giant doll babies in the middle of the forest.
It's so. Let's talk about Alex Garland a little bit. Alex Garland is one of those people that not a lot of people know his name, but then you start talking about he did Annihilation and he wrote Dread and he did Ex Machina and
Yep.
he did some stuff that a lot of people are like. They spend hours talking about and video essays and stuff like that about his storytelling process and his thought process and everything like that. And he was the draw for me on this show. I don't know what it was. I don't know if you just kind of tagged along and I said, hey, let's watch this.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the commercials and it looked interesting.
Yeah.
We like this kind of thing. We liked Legion. We liked Annihilation. We like stuff where you have to pay attention and kind of think about it. So let's go.
It's a little bit more than that too. I think I think it's that we love popcorn stuff. I mean, we're doing a series of, the world's coming to an end movies, and it's,
Right.
It's Independence Day and Day After Tomorrow. And so we like popcorn movies. But we also like this sit down and make you think about not necessarily life, but just think about what they're talking about in whatever it is we're watching.
Right.
And this one was definitely one of those that happens. The show, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this show. So imagine if Bill Gates, now we talked about spoilers, so we're going to go in spoilers. So imagine if Bill Gates, who has all the money in the world, loses his child and his wife and decides to build a quantum computer to try to reanimate them.
Yeah.
I think that was the original plan, was to try to bring them back, because that was the rat that they kept putting there.
Yeah. The rat was dead and they brought it back to life. So yeah, I guess so. And they ended up not doing, well, they did. They brought the rat back, but bringing people back from the dead has a whole another set of just not even moral issues, but just
right.
like, have you ever seen a zombie movie? I mean, or Frankenstein movie, right? There's a whole nother set of problems there, but they end up seeing into the past and the future but they try not to do the future, right? Because
Right.
that, then you got the whole kill your grandma or you're
It's
not
a
born.
lot
Or,
of
I
that
don't know.
discussion about going forward in time was it's predetermined. Your future is predetermined by the decisions you've already made. You're already on that track, and that track's going no matter what you do, no matter what you change or think you're going to change. That future's always going to happen.
Right. Well, that's where they got to. But I
Right.
don't know if that's specifically where they started out with that, with why they didn't go into the future. It's more of a, I think initially your thoughts are you don't want to see into the future. Nobody should know when they die, right?
Right.
So I think that was kind of what stopped them. And then they ended up realizing that Kate, Allison Pill's character, Katie, ended up realizing that there was absolutely nothing you could do to change the future.
Right.
It was everything in your life was predetermined, and everything is.
And they lay the groundwork for that in the first episode when Forrest, who's played by Nick Offerman, talks about with Sergey about everything that's led you to this point. It is where you're going to end up in the future.
Right, it's
And
not your fault.
It's not your fault. This is forgiveness because Sergey was stealing trade secrets and stuff like
Right,
that. And,
right.
but there's also a level there of kind of the Matrix version of the world or discussing of the world and your events in your life that do you believe in preconceived destiny?
Predestination.
Do you and
Free will.
and free will and so there was that topic that was talked about too because they couldn't see past a certain point
Right.
with Lily and Lily makes a decision that was not in the precog of what they came up with,
Right.
but yet the what ended up happening
Was still the
still
same.
happens.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of discussion of free will and destiny, and like that's why we're talking about this show, like spoiler wise, because
Yeah.
there's so much stuff that I think was really well handled. Is the show starts off as this entity, this subject, and what we learn as the show learns what the characters are trying to accomplish in their goals changes. And so that means the show changes, and the show and how it's looking at different things changes as it goes along as well. And that's at least how I took it. About
Okay.
Fourth or fifth episode, I'm like, wait, they just changed the whole what this show, like the whole plot structure of the show.
Yeah, I mean, it starts off as kind of, again, with Sergey stealing the code, and it kind of starts off more of a like sci-fi science spy
Yeah.
thing, and
Yeah.
then there's a lot of so there's like his Russian handler, and she's trying to break into his phone, and he's got this Sudoku app that he never he doesn't play Sudoku, and
Right.
it's got this password, and then she ends up meeting his handler, and so it starts off as like this
Spy drama.
industrial
Industrial.
technological spy drama.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's people being killed, and there's one scene where the muscle, I guess, for Forrest's company. Can't remember the name of the company is his daughter's
Amaya.
name. Amaya. Yeah.
Amaya's the name
and
of
the
the
big
company.
baby doll in the middle of the forest is Amaya.
That's a
Kind of weird. And his muscle ends up snapping the handler's neck on a tire.
on a tire. Yeah, it was like a great wrestling scene of two older, experienced, have been through the wars and the
Yeah,
dramas and stuff
yeah.
like that kind of thing. But they're both also older, and so
Yeah.
they can't move as fast. And so it becomes this wrestling scene, and he snaps his neck by essentially just pressuring him into the tire
a
underneath the
tire
car.
on
It
the
was
ground,
it was like, it was so subtle. It was just like, oh my God. And the cool thing about that episode was, not every episode was like this, but that one particular episode, they showed you everything that was going to happen in the episode. And then they sprinkled in those shots, like in the first 15, 20 seconds of the episode.
Yeah.
And then they sprinkled those shots in throughout the entire episode. And we're like, oh.
Yeah.
Now we're starting to realize, and that's also the episode where they start talking about, really start having a discussion of, we're looking back in time. We're looking forward in time.
Yeah. You have no idea.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're in the heart of the, where the quantum computer is, and they're looking at this screen that's like resolving into Christ on the cross, and you're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where did that come? I thought we were doing like some kind of technological spy drama, and now suddenly we're looking at Christ.
Yeah, and that's when I think we both went, closed their tablet computers and put them off to the side. So this was one of the things I wanted to talk about with this show. This show is super dense, and there's a ton of stuff going on, and the pace is slow, but not like distractingly slow.
Yeah.
There's constant tension, and I think that's a little bit of the music. But the thing is we binged it all in one day. It was a week-to-week thing that dropped on FX.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to.
We would have been out after about 3 episodes because of the pace. The pacing was intentional the way it was doing it, because you're building to a. You have to build slowly to get to the realization of what I think they're trying to do, at least trying to tell this one story, multiple branches of the one story. But
right. I think, it's definitely a better binge show. I keep going back and thinking of it in terms of Legion. Also,
Maniac is kind of that way too.
I was thinking Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks, yeah, that's a
where,
good one too.
They reference stuff in later episodes from earlier episodes that, a month from now you're going to be like, I don't necessarily get it as well as you do when it's only been a couple hours.
Yeah, and I think that's why we love this. I love this show.
Yeah.
Like,
it was
I'm
almost
super impressed by this.
just thinking about it. It's almost like it was a movie cut into
8 episodes.
8 episodes. Yeah, 8 chapters, 8 installments, whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, it flowed. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end.
And I think a lot of that, bringing it back around to Alex Garland, was he wrote and directed every episode.
Yeah.
It wasn't his show, and then they had a writer's room, and everybody picked an episode, and they all did their own things.
He probably just wrote the whole thing.
He
just A
wrote
to Z, and then cut it up into episodes.
I actually would love to see an interview with him. He doesn't do a ton of interviews, but I would love to see an interview with him talking about his process with this particular thing, because if you watch like Ex Machina or Annihilation is. The books are super dense and dealing with all kinds of multiple levels of things.
Yeah.
And so is Ex Machina. And so they're super dense. And to be able to do that denseness over 8 hours, I don't know how they would have been able to do this as a 2.5 hour movie. I just don't know.
No, because there really wasn't. I don't feel like there was any filler.
Yeah.
Any fluff.
Everything meant something for something.
Yeah. It moved
before
along.
or after it.
Yeah.
Back to the whole timetable.
Right.
Thing.
It moved along. It was there was, I guess, enough of the spy drama kind of thing going on to keep you more interested than sometimes so Annihilation, right? Annihilation is there's those short little episodes kind of with Natalie Portman's character interacting with the other women who go through but it's more about the end, like
you're building to that point.
and this had this these other stories or this other story sprinkled in there enough to keep you not so weighted down by all the heavy mind
Right. Mind
messing
effing that
thing.
is going on. It's
Yeah, the
yeah,
and the different points that they're trying to put across, like, should you even do this kind of stuff? Should tech people have this kind of money? Should they be, that was a big one.
Should they have this? I love that scene with the senator about oversight and what is oversight and who should really have oversight, and
they kept wanting him to sell it or give it over to the government for the NSA. And
they also talk about tech geniuses thinking that they are gods.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I won't say ultimately, because every time I think about something else about the show, I'm like, this show is about this. and that is one of the things that actually is super quietly built in the background the entire time, is the idea that Forrest thinks that he's a god. And he thinks he's a god because he's trying to bring his wife and daughter back.
But he doesn't, right?
He comes to the realization that
he does at the end. He realizes that he is acting in a godlike manner.
Yeah.
But and that's another kind of interesting thing about this, is he is not the Steve Jobs asshole, I'm the smartest person in the room
Right.
kind of character. He's very gentle and quiet and forgiving and cooperative. And you think the whole time, or at least in the first maybe 3 episodes, you think he's the one behind the Amaya muscle guy going out and killing everybody and capturing everybody and all that. And he's actually not. He's like, oh my God, I didn't even realize this stuff was happening.
Yeah. Or he doesn't want to know. Like he's
so focused on his thing, on making
Yeah.
this thing work, that he's not, he's not aware of. He's like the opposite of Steve Jobs. Instead of being the controlling, I need to know everything that's going on, he's like, you guys got this, I'm focused on this.
Yeah. And I love that they, when they're doing the introduction of the devs program, the devs wing, when they go into the when they go into the quantum computer and stuff like that, and they start having that conversation, he's like, there's no check-in, there's no check in, you don't check out. Some people work overnight.
It's a very Google.
It's a very new world Google way of looking at everything, and that sets up a lot of stuff too. That you get to the point with him where you're like, you feel sympathetic for how he got to this point. But you also understand that he is a psychopath.
Yeah. I don't know if I would call it a psychopath.
He's singularly focused and will do anything to get to that point.
Right. And that's, again, the point.
Yeah.
He is a super genius with a ton of money that had this very bad thing happen to him, and all he wants is his family back. And it's like the perfect storm of all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
The average Joe loses his wife and his daughter, and it's because we're doing a spoiler episode, it's horrific, right? It happens right in front of him. And
I feel that he might actually even feel guilty for it.
Oh, probably, because he was talking to her on the phone. And for the average Joe, not a whole lot you can do about that. Right? You're just going to be sad, depressed, emotional, all of that. He has money. He has a lot of money. And he has a big, big brain. And so, this is...
And can get other big brains to come and work with them.
That's kind of one of the other, points, is that these people, you're torn, right, between these independent, not working for a government agency or whatever people have the money and the means to do things that they may not they may not be the most emotionally stable person in the world, and they have the money and the means to do what it is that they want to do. However, you want the independent entrepreneurs, not oversight
Yeah.
by the government.
Or being told that you have to create something for this thing, or you have to do it for this particular reason, or you have to build a certain computer to do this one task.
Right.
You
Or
need-
potentially be used for things that you're against, right?
Right,
Maybe
right.
you're not for war or whatever.
Which is strange because they dealt with this in Real Genius in 1986, and
Right.
it's still being discussed.
It is. It's going to continue to be, it's the whole, do you make, how far do you go with AI? And, it's
Right.
that whole conversation that, they've also been talking about that for a really long time, and they still don't have a better answer
No,
today.
they don't. One other thing that I wanted to talk about with this show was outside of it's Alex Garland. We talked about how good he is, but it's just shot amazingly. It's
Yeah.
shot beautifully,
Yeah.
shot like a movie,
San
whatever.
Francisco.
Just very squared off shots of San Francisco and very interesting framing techniques with side profile shots of conversations
Right.
and just
or one person in the conversation is very well lit, and the other person in the
Yeah.
conversation is basically backlit, so their face is almost completely
obscured.
shadowed out.
Yeah. But what I really wanted to, and we could spend an hour talking about how the way it's shot. Like I just, because we've talked about that, cinematography is my thing. But the acting performances in the show are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Nick Offerman from Parks and Rec is what he's most known for. He plays Forrest, and he plays this very very average person with the big brain and big pocketbook that we were just talking about, and is very subdued in his performance, and I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Allison Pill, who's been on fire lately,
Right. She's in everything.
she's amazing in Picard, and she's amazing in this in a different way.
Yeah.
To show she's very. We know people who are like this, obnoxiously smart people who are disconnected from the world,
Yeah, and she's
self-aware of that too.
yeah. She's like, yep, this is how I am, and she's very unemotional for most of the series. It's a little interesting in the end where they have was that the last episode, the second to last episode, where the two of them, Katie and Forrest, are in bed together because they are you kind of all of a sudden find out that they're boyfriend and girlfriend in a weird kind of way. I mean, she even acknowledges, because Lily asks her, are you his girlfriend? And she's like, huh, yeah, I guess I am.
I guess that's the word for it.
Yeah. You're like, okay. And that was like the most emotional she had been, most emotion that her character had shown up until that point. And then in the last episode, as they know what's going to happen, they both kind of show some more emotion.
Both show some emotion.
Yeah.
Sonia Mizuno plays Lily. She's somebody that I have we kind of like. I had to go onto IMDb after like the third episode. I'm like, why do we know her?
Yeah.
Well, she's the doctor in Maniac.
Yeah.
And the kind of OCD doctor and stuff like that. But she's also in Ex Machina. She's also in Annihilation.
Yep.
She seems to be one of those people that is Alex Garland's like kind of go-to.
Yeah.
Every creator, writer, director, whatever has certain actors they always seem to go to.
Quentin has Uma.
And Mads Michael Mann and Timothy Roth and Tim Roth and stuff. But I want to talk about her performance just for a minute, because she has to do. She's in love. She's devastated by the loss of her love. She's got to play this schizophrenic kind of stage at what point in time. And then she has to lose all emotion and be single-minded in destroying everything. And that to do all those different levels is really, really hard, and it's really good. And there's scenes where she plays it so wooden on purpose. I feel like she plays it very wooden on purpose to give it almost like it's a simulation, like they're in the simulation. There's a couple of times where there's scenes, specifically with Lily, where I'm like, this is a simulation.
Yeah.
And it's a simulation because she's pretty much doing the NPC kind of version of dealing with stuff in the scene.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow, okay, this is on purpose. And it kind of threw me off the first time, but like I was really impressed with whatever she's in. I'm pretty much.
Yeah. She was really good.
And everybody else is really good. Stephen McNeely Henderson, who plays Stuart. We're going to be seeing a lot of him here coming. He's one of those character actors who's been around forever and now has gotten a shot and is getting a bigger shot here coming pretty soon with Dune. He's pretty awesome. And then Kaylee Spaney, who plays Lyndon, very subtly plays a trans character.
Right.
They call Lyndon him the entire time, but Kaylee is a woman in real life. And so it very subtly just throwing it that, I don't know if it was intentional that they picked a female actor to be in that role, or she just nailed the audition so well that they just decided to leave it the way it was and let her cut her hair short and just.
I'd be interested to know if she is. Anyway, if she is trans.
Yeah.
That's been a big thing, right, is having actual transgender people play transgender characters instead of, I don't know.
And that might actually be a thing. Like, I would be... she's done a couple of things. Biggest thing was Pacific Rim Uprising. She was in Bad Times at El Royale as the little girl and stuff. But it was... her and Stuart, Lyndon and Stuart, are the narrators of what's going on inside the quantum computer, and at least that's how I looked at it. Was they were kind of the ones that try to explain the stuff inside the computer itself to
Stuart's. Lyndon is the I don't know, almost the voice of morality. Yeah. And Stuart is the he is excited about what they're doing, but he's also kind of got that fatalistic it is what it is, and they're going to do what they're going to do, and there's nothing I can do to change it.
He's an older man who's lived his life and is super smart, but is involved in this because he finds it amazing. He's living in a freaking RV on the street corner. And so it was just
it's like, you're making a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Yeah. And he just goes home, gets drunk every night, and he comes back into work. And I was like, the cast was so well done. Jamie was really well done. Lin Ha, it's like his first real major thing. He did some stuff on Broadway. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but he was really. I was really impressed with everybody. I loved this show.
Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, Jesus Christ Superstar. That's what it was.
Yep.
So it's shot the way I love. It gives me time to think about stuff. Performances were amazing. It looks cool. The music's cool. This is a top notch. We've talked for 30 minutes. We could go for another 30 minutes.
Right.
This was supposed to be a 10-minute review, and we've done 30 minutes, and we could probably go on for some more.
Watch it.
So go watch it. So let us know what you thought of the show Devs from FX. Let us know what it actually really means in the comments down below, and tell us what you felt of our review, how long it was. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications if you're on the podcast feed. Follow us there and share with your friends. Follow us on all of social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, and the Twitters. And until next time, cult members, if we don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.